Welcome back to Pomona, California. No, that's not fog. That's tire smoke from funny car burnouts. We're still in round number 2. It'll be Al Hoffman up against Cruz Pendragon in the McDonald's car. And Dave McClellan, these two have been battling each other all year. Not for the championship. John Force has got that. For the number 2 spot, it still pays a lot of bonus cash.
And that late season charge that Cruz Pendragon put on has vaulted him ahead of Al Hoffman, who qualified number 3 in this race with a 5:13, improved to a 5:12 in round 1. Pendragon, meantime, qualified 6th at a 5:16. And don't forget, that 5:08 that he ran in the first round was the quickest ET of the round, particularly when John Force had the problem. A check under the body for the crew of the Western Auto Slick 50 Dodge. Crewman bringing Pendragon into the staging beam.
And this will be the last race for Cruz Pendragon under the ownership of Larry Minor Motorsports. Next year, that team will be owned by Joe Gibbs of football fame. Al Hoffman, he just wants to try to get that number 2 point spot, but I'm not sure he can do it. A lot of clutch dust in the Hoffman car. Cruz Pendragon, a sizzling 5.09 and a decent speed of 294 miles an hour.
Steve, as we watch this in replay, take a look at the consistency of the McDonald's car. Pendragon whips it hard off the starting line and then just slowly but surely drives away from Al Hoffman, who recorded a respectable 5:18 at 290 miles an hour, but it was not near enough to catch the flying Pendragon.
Drag racers use the C word a lot because it's so important. Consistency, and you've got it. 09 again.
That's great. Hoffman, I tell you what, he's tough. That Western Auto car, he was right there. I heard him, I felt him, but hey, we got the win. This is nice. This is the hometown folks here at Pomona. We love it. We're on to the next round. Thank you.
Pendragon thinking about round wins, and so are the next pair of drivers. This is the Dodge Avenger-bodied car, the Kendall GT1 entry of Chuck Etchells. His opponent is Tom Hoover, wheeling the Pioneer Art of Entertainment Dodge Daytona, and Hoover is locked in a tight battle with Kenji Okazaki for the number 10 spot in the Winston chase.
Tom Hoover is the opposite of Cruz Pendragon. No consistency. Qualified at a 5:19. Won in the first round with a very weak and lucky 5:50. Chuck Etchells, number 2 at a 5:12. John Medlin, his crew chief, has got this baby flying.
5:18 by Etchells in the first round gives him the choice of lanes, and like Richard Hartman before and Cruz Pendragon, they have selected the lane furthest from the camera. The pressure is definitely on Hoover at this point. He needs those 200 points that come with each round win if he hopes to finish in the top 10.
Chuck Etchells, one of the teams that has the luxury of testing for 1995. That's really what they're using this race for. They'd like to win it, but if they don't, they can learn something all the better. Look at this. They've learned a lot. Chuck Etchells, woohoo, 5:11, improves on his qualifying number. And a speed of only 280 tells us there's a lot left in that machine. Hoover, a nice 5:19. It just wasn't enough.
Hoover may have fallen a few hundredths of a second short in the elapsed time department, but he had the big numbers on the top end, running over 292 miles an hour. But races are won based upon elapsed time and not speed, and Etchells definitely prevailed. This race was decided by just about a car length at the finish line. Etchells, the winner.
Well, the numbers are getting tight. 09 for Cruz. You just ran a nice 11.
Yeah, it's a real good run in the heat of the day. But we knew Hoover was going to be tough. He told us beforehand he needed to win that round to be in the top 10, and kind of feel bad. Like Hoover a lot, but Okazaki's having a party back there.
Out on the racetrack, our final pair here in round number 2, and the question mark about this race is, has John Force been able to repair the number 1 qualified car for the challenge of the Smokin' Joe's Racing Ford Mustang, Gordy Bonnet up?
We already showed you the highlight of the round number 1 explosion. It was a boomer that put John on his knees. It took him a while to recover. In fact, he even went into the ambulance. But Bernie Federle and Austin Coyle, they've got all the bullets, all the parts they could possibly need. So unless it's a gremlin that is in some other part of the system of the car, I get a feeling that John Force will be just fine, thank you.
He qualified number 1 at a 497. Meantime, Gordy Bonnet qualified 9th at a 522. Slowed to a 525 when he beat Gary Bolger in the first round. But that is more than enough to give him the lane choice over Force. The crew, Austin Coyle, their leader, checking over the car, of course. Brand new engine in that race car. And as the other racers say, Steve, every trick known to man.
Absolutely. And Gordy Bonin is one of those racers that is always around to pick up the pieces. He won 2 national events this year and really took advantage of other people's problems. He's not the best car to have in the other lane if you're on any kind of a downslide.
A big question mark here about Force. Only in the latter part of the season have we seen the Castrol GTX Chevy Lumina having any kind of problems. Bonin goes up in smoke. Look at the raw fuel pouring out of the exhaust pipes. That means it's not firing those cylinders. And John Force, with a mediocre at best 536 at 256, goes into the semifinals. His opponent will be Richard Hartman. And how often do you say this? Hartman has the lane choice. The other side of the ladder, Bruce Pedregon and Chuck Etchels. And right now, Mr. Consistency, Pedregon gets to pick his lane. Now down to Steve.
You just got a big break. Now you can tune this thing up.
Hey, well, we're just all screwed up from that last round trying to get her together. What's really amazing is that when she don't have no power, she drives right at the wall. I lifted about 1,000 foot because like she's going in, it's going to crash. And I lifted, and I didn't see him. I hit it again because, oh, boy.
Don't yell, John.
I won't yell. Baby, what's wrong with you?
I'm sure they'll figure it out. This huge crowd just waiting to see what's coming up next, and it may be a new Pro Stock champion to be crowned.
Welcome back to American Sports Cavalcade. It is Pro Stock time, round number 2, and a couple of sensational drivers and automobiles here. Bob Glidden against Scott Jeffreyon. You're on board Scott Jeffreyon's Dodge Avenger. If he can beat Glidden, his title hopes are still alive. Unless, of course, in this same round, Darrell Alderman wins, then he would be the Winston champion. Scott Jeffreyon from Aliso Viejo, California, about 45 minutes from the racetrack. Bob Glidden from Whiteland, Indiana. And Dave, there's something special here for him.
For the first time in 22 years, Bob Glidden may not win a single race in a season. One of the more incredible strings in racing history could be coming to an end at this event. Scott Jeffreyon has definitely been the class car. He qualified quicker, ran quicker in the first round. The Dodge and the Ford, a little bit of a staging battle possibly. They're in the pre-stage beam. They are about 6 to 8 inches away from the actual starting line. Jeffreyon's in. Glidden flickered the lights. You're riding with Scott Jeffreyon in the Dodge.
The old Fox had a slight advantage on the starting line, but it's not enough. Glidden's streak of 22 years goes down. Scott Jeffreyon is still alive.
7:06 at 196 miles an hour. That is 0.03 of a second quicker than Scott Jeffreyon's qualifying time. Impressive performances indeed. Steve?
With that 7:06, you are hanging on by a thread.
I ran a 7:06?
Got it.
Man, these guys from Wayne County, how about them, huh? I might even have lane choice over WJ if he wins this round.
No one in a hurry to stage up there.
Well, they don't come any craftier than Bob Glidden. You know he's going to pull out all the stops, and believe me, he's taught me plenty of lessons out here, and some of them have been the best ones I've ever learned.
Well, you're looking at the new generation of the Ford Quality Care team. This is young Rusty Glidden, Bob's son. He qualified well at a 7:10, matched that in round number 1 as he defeated Mark Osborne. His opponent, engine builder Steve Schmidt out of Indianapolis, number 3 qualifier with a 7:08, had a 7:11 when he whipped Jerry Ekman in the first round.
Well, it seems like Steve Schmidt and his company build half the Pro Stock engines. In the Rusty Glidden car is a motor built by his brother Billy out of just scrap and spare parts from around the shop. They've experimented. It's no longer a Hemi head Ford. It's strictly a wedge. Let's see what happens. Rusty's been having a ball driving this car, shouting and screaming as only he can. Oh, and Schmidt just drills Glidden off the mark. Incredible reaction time. Can Rusty catch him? Oh, my. That was 0.02 of a second between them. 7:15 beats a 7:10.
3 runs in a row. Rusty Glidden runs 7:10, but the string runs out. When he is laid off the starting line, you could see the Dyna-Gear Oldsmobile Cutlass of Steve Schmidt get the advantage by nearly 0.05 of a second. That amount of time, some 0.05 of a second, was the advantage performance-wise that Glidden enjoyed with the Ford. But as they neared the finish line, our CompuLink timing system separated the two, and 0.02 of a second, margin of victory for Schmidt.
Steve the Snake Schmidt. What a hole shot that was.
Well, my guys were a little concerned. He had a 413 light last round, and I told him, don't worry about it. He's just a kid. The old man can handle him.
Were you gambling?
No, not at all.
Well, I wonder if this man might take a gamble or two. Here in round number 2 at the Winston Select Finals, Darrell Alderman has a lot riding on this race. How much? Possibly his 3rd Winston championship. The pressure's been put on by his teammate. Scott Jeffreyon is keeping on the heat. Qualified number 2 was Alderman at a 7:04. He had 7:08 in the first round.
And Kurt Johnson qualified number 7 with a nice 7:11 run, 7:12 in round number 1. I don't think Alderman in any way is going to gamble. As good as Kurt Johnson is, Alderman figures that Wayne County Avenger can outrun him. He's not going to gamble. If he wins right here, he is the new Winston champion. If he loses, Scott Jeffreyon has to win the entire event. Scott down at the far end with me, looking up track.
Intently watching to see what his teammate's going to do. One of the great camera shots in all of motorsports on board in the Mopar Dodge Avenger with Darrell Alderman. Through the 5-speed, and Kurt Johnson slows with mechanical problems. Darrell Alderman has clinched his 3rd Winston championship. 7:08 at 194 miles an hour. And as we ride again, look at the intensity on Alderman's face. Kurt Johnson disappears from sight. Alderman's just got to get it through the finish line, and he did. The win to Alderman, and a 3rd Winston title resides on his mantle.
Maybe now you can get a good night's sleep and quit worrying about this thing.
Yeah, I know it's been a tough weekend. Of course, I don't know if it's mathematically over with yet or not, but...
They're saying it is.
Well, I'll take it.
While Alderman begins his celebration, Austin Coyle and crew are thrashing on John Force's Chevy Lumina, trying to find the problem. Can they do it?